As the number of elderly continues to grow, our society is becoming more aware of the needs and responsibilities and rights of them. It's very important to understand the aging process and to remember that aging is not a disease, but it's part of the continuum of life. Hi, I'm Kathy Getrest, and today we're going to be talking about the psychological changes with age. Often people's view of the elderly has been formed by their perception as a child of elder grandparents and friends. When I look back on my childhood, I remember my grandparents as being very active. They drove a car, they had their own private homes, were involved in the church and other social events, had good health, and as a result, my view of the elderly was formed by those examples, and so I thought of the elderly from young times on as capable older folks. Your perception might be different if your knowledge of your grandparents was that they were in ill health, maybe were hard of hearing, maybe they were just grumpy much of the time. That might be your view of the elderly. The reality, however, is that the majority of elderly in this nation of ours are active and productive citizens who live and function independently. The attitude of the Western world toward old people tends to place them in positions of lesser and lesser significance. America generally, no surprise to any of us, is a youth-oriented society. Our culture does not practice the kind of recognition and respect many other societies bestow upon their elders. This emphasis on youth can be very painful for an aging population. A positive attitude towards older people is central to providing them with the very best care. There is what has been termed a gray tidal wave of people populating the earth. Some statistics bear that out. Worldwide, the number of people 65 and older will have increased 4 times between 1955 and 2025. It has been reported that in the United States alone, 76 million baby boomers will retire between now and the year 2050. If you remember, the baby boomers are the folks that were born in the 18 years after World War II. This trend towards an aging world population requires that caregivers be able to provide care that takes into consideration the changes that take place with the aging and the unique needs of the elderly individual. Psychologists in the 1950s, people like Maslow, Erickson, Jung, and others, supported the idea that emotional well-being and successful aging depended on the successful completion of a series of developmental tasks. In one of the other videotapes, the developmental tasks of the from infancy to older age are talked about. Today's focus will be on the developmental tasks of the elderly. Some of the developmental tasks are the adjustment to the aging process, accepting physical changes and loss. A successful adjustment results in the acknowledgement of the realities of aging. Another task is believing that life is important and meaningful. It's a time when the elder reflects on the meaning of their life. A third developmental task is accepting that things in the past cannot be changed and letting go of disappointments and regrets that they might have had. Sometimes you may have been with an elder person and they get on subjects that talk about mistakes that they think that they made earlier in life and don't seem to be able to get on with the fact that those past disappointments cannot be redone. One thing that frequently comes to mind is that the individual felt they spent too much time at the office, neglected their family, maybe were a little too hard on one of their kids. Only if I had bought that property, man, just think what that would be worth today. Some of those things need to be let go because the past cannot be redone. Another developmental task is the reviewing of life's successes and failures, a time when individuals try to determine how valuable their life has been as they approach death, which of course would be the final task. As a person grows older, there are psychosocial changes and losses that occur. The term psycho means emotional or mental process relating to our brain. And social means the ways of relating to people. Together, psychosocial refers to an individual's mental and emotional aspects of relating to others. Some of the psychosocial changes a person may experience as they grow older are retirement from work would be one. Retirement is a reward for a lifetime of hard work. For many people, this is a really exciting time and a pleasurable time. For others, it may not be so fortunate. Sometimes people are forced into retirement due to disability or chronic illnesses. Some have additional medical expenses that make enjoying retirement under these circumstances difficult. Personal satisfaction and usefulness result from working. Friendships develop from our day-to-day encounters with other people, co-workers. Some people need work for psychological fulfillment. Retirement can be hard on these folks where they put so much of their energies into their work life. This is especially traumatic for people who may not have developed other interests and have much of their self-image intertwined with their job. Many very successful presidents of corporations or folks that travel a lot who have spent the majority of their days, 8, 10, 12 hours of their day at the office, and have not gotten involved in volunteer or maybe have not made the connections with their family, find this extremely troubling to suddenly have all of those feelings of satisfaction that work provided for them removed. Retirement can mean less financial income. Many times the retirement income is much less than the working income. The monthly Social Security check may be the only money, and as we all know, that has not really been has not kept pace with the cost of living. Retirement and aging do not mean fewer expenses. The elder person on a fixed income still needs to pay for rent or mortgages. They need to pay for their food, their clothing, and mounting health care bills, not to mention the cost of prescription drugs. This reduced income can force changes in the elder individual. It might be moving to cheaper housing. It may be changing the kinds of foods that they consume and clothing and so forth. Social relationships change throughout life. From childhood, kids grow up, leave home, move away. Being a very mobile society, many children live far distances from their parents. My siblings live in California, in Florida, and in South Dakota. I am one that happens to live in Wisconsin where my parents live, but the rest of them live elsewhere. Elder friends and relatives move away, die, or become disabled. It wasn't all that long ago that my mother said that she's either visiting an individual who is confined to a nursing home, or she's going to a funeral. Many elderly people, as a result, are lonely. This separation from children, as well as maybe the loss of a spouse, health problems as well, can contribute to them being isolated from others. Despite the physical ability to remain sexually active in older age, there are many ignorances and prejudices that exist around this subject. How many times have you heard that women after menopause lose their desire for any sexual activity? Or you may have heard that older men are not able to achieve an erection. Or you might have thought from different conversations that older people are not interested in sex. Any sign of interest in sex by an older person is frequently discouraged and frequently also found determined as being disgusting. The same criteria that makes a man at the age of 30 a playboy makes him a dirty old man at the age of 70. Many older people lack the acceptance, respect, and dignity granted to their continual sexual expression. This is done when belittling the older individual's interest in their clothing, in the use of makeup, in cosmetics, hairstyles, and so forth. This is also done by unnecessarily exposing the older person's body during care activities. Chances are there would be no caregiver that would walk in to, let's just say, a 25-year-old man who's in traction in the hospital, throw back his covers, not put a curtain around him, and bathe him in full view of roommate. This is done in some facilities with an older adult. It probably would not be tolerated by a 25-year-old. Another way that the elder's sexual expression is belittled is by hearing caregivers joke about two older persons' interest in each other, or any flirtation that might go on between consenting adults. The aging process does not neuter the older person, nor does it alter the significance of sexual identity to that individual. Another change might be health problems. Some may have disabilities that can affect whether they can drive, where they live, and whether they can maintain their independence. Elderly with health problems may have their world become smaller. My father has a couple of major health problems. For one, his legs aren't working and he's wheelchair bound, and he also has a really difficult time hearing. And so he has stopped going to church. He does not go out to social events, programs, because he said it doesn't make any sense to go. I can't hear what's going on, and as a result has chosen to stay in his apartment. And so his world has become much smaller with the health problems that he's experiencing. Elderly couples seldom divorce. This is true of even marriages that have been shaky earlier in their life. They tend to stabilize as they become older and look to each other for security, support, and safety in an imperfect world. Much of their socialization and reason for living is intertwined with the other individual. When death occurs, the loss can be devastating. No amount of preparation is ever enough for the emptiness and changes that result Think about individuals that have been married 45, 50, 55, maybe 60 years, and suddenly their partner in life is gone. Serious mental and physical problems can result. Their surviving spouse may lose their will to live, may talk about suicide, and the loss of the spouse can also be liberating, on the other hand, for a spouse that has spent many years of caregiving for the mate. An older friend of mine had taken care of her husband for about 15 years. He was severely handicapped with different health problems, and it prevented her from being able to do much else in her life, was not able to get out and enjoy any social activities. Last year he was taken to a nursing home because his needs were such that she could no longer care for him. He's recently died, and it has really freed his wife up to be able to now participate in activities with her family. She's began traveling with her family and enjoying social activities with people of her own age as a result of her husband's recent death. A role is defined as a part one plays in relationship to others. We all have roles that we play in life. Some of the roles that I'm assuming are I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a nurse, I'm an instructor. And as people age, they assume more and more roles in their life. Not only do they have those roles, but maybe they're a widower, maybe they're a grandparent, and so forth. When an elderly person becomes ill, he or she must exchange the role of a healthy, independent individual for a sick individual. Most people have very little preparation for the major role changes of life. The change from a spouse to a widower may require learning new skills at the same time that they are in the grieving process. An elder friend of mine lost his wife within the last year. He's 92. She died at the age of 88. Not only is he grieving the loss of a lifetime, a life mate that he had, but he's also having to adjust to doing cooking, cleaning, and laundry for himself when these were activities that were never a part of his previous role. Changing from an independent role to one of dependency can also be devastating. My father was a very active individual, could run circles around anyone, was a farmer. Now, being wheelchair bound, he needs the assistance of someone else to help him stand, turn, get onto the toilet, have assistance in wiping himself. So these are very difficult things for an individual to have to succumb to. Sometimes it's also, the loss can be devastating for someone's self-esteem. Many elderly experience role reversal. Role reversal just means that, for example, an adult child becomes more of the parent, and the parent becomes more like the child. An example might be, in my situation, my mother made decisions for our family, not only for us as children, but also she made many of the decisions for my father. She's now at a point where, in frequent conversations with other people, she'll say, well, that may be okay, but you'll need to talk to my daughter about that. That's a role reversal where she's reverting now for me to make some of the decisions that she so capably was able to make in the past. Remember, however, these adults are not to be treated as children in this process, but just know that a lot of the responsibilities that they previously carried so capably are now being transferred or reversed to the individual's adult child. Members of an ethnic group share similar history, language, customs, and characteristics. Although individual differences occur within a given ethnic group and stereotypes should not be made, cultures do have different expectations for their elderly. For example, Native Americans tend to respect their elders, view them as leaders, teachers, and advisors to their youth. Chinese and Japanese cultures tend to view old age as a blessing, and the elderly are held in very high esteem and are considered to be very wise. American culture, as was mentioned earlier, emphasizes youth and beauty. In many families, there is no role for the elderly individual. This attitude in America has not always been the case. Our roots were in a farming community where there was a role for everyone, young and old alike, and where families took care of each other, much more so than they do today. It's going to be interesting to see if this youth-oriented attitude changes as the elderly population continues to grow larger and becomes more visible. Older people are banding together in support groups that are active in politics, in industry, and social issues. Maybe you're familiar with the organization called ARP, the American Association of Retired People. Very large, influential group of elder folks are members of that organization, and it has lots of influence in politics and other issues that concern America. Marketers of products will soon consider some of the juiciest targets to be consumers aged 55 and older. Wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing Old Navy or Levi having elder people sport their blue jeans and other clothing. As caregivers, you have a big responsibility to help meet the psychosocial needs of the mature adult. First, help to make them feel important. Show respect for the elder by being a good listener. Take time to pay attention to what they're saying. Assist them to look their very best. Make sure that their hair is attractively styled, that they're clean and shaven, that their clothes are clean, and encourage them to do as much as possible for themselves. This fosters independence and helps increase their self-esteem. Get them involved in projects that they alone can do so that at the end they can take the entire glory for doing it. Assist in meeting the need for love and belonging, remembering that the elders may be miles away from close friends and family. They're going to be looking to you for affection that they might need. Provide care that you give to them with a gentle touch, with kindness, and be very considerate in the manner in which you deal with them. Demonstrate a recognition, acceptance, and respect for the sexuality of the older individual. Alert and oriented elderly people should not have to have their sexuality approved, screened, or stopped by any caregiver. The need for intimacy and human contact remains an important need in a later life. Provide the basic courtesy of knocking before entering the privacy of someone's space. Listen to the stories of the olden days, because remembering these stories helps the elder maintain self-esteem and allows them to work through personal losses. Assist them to see themselves as a valuable, needed, and successful person. Encourage participation in projects that have genuine value. Help to provide socialization by being friendly, understanding, and patient while completing your work. Many facilities have a department called the Activities Department, which offers structured activities to help keep the older resident active and involved. These are led by recreational therapists. These are people who have college degrees. Some have said all they do is play with the residents. Well, this is certainly part of what they do, but they provide a tremendous service in helping the elder remain active and provide value to their lives. Encourage the elder to interact with family, visitors, and other residents. Help them get connected with others if they're struggling to do so. Encourage them to write. Maybe keep a journal, use audio tapes, do needlework. Any other kind of artistic expression is of value to the elder, as it is for anybody else at any age. Provide an opportunity to make decisions as well, so that they can be made to feel important. These are just a few of the things that you can do to help meet the basic needs of the elder adult. When you get to working in a facility, you'll learn about many other opportunities that you can do to help meet these psychosocial needs. Remember, one of the best ways to recognize and meet the needs of the elder is to recognize and understand the needs of your own. They're no different. A modification of the golden rule is still really the best guide. Provide care for others as you would want others to provide care for you or some member of your family. Aging is inevitable. It's part of the continuum of life. Unless we can create a world which offers the possibility of aging with grace, respect, and honor, none of us will be able to look forward to the future.